Hello, welcome and welcome back. This is Jacob, and today we are going to be continuing the module short story narrations for the various operators in Arknights, and the module short stories you simply get by unlocking the very module on the operator. And today we're going to be looking at the one for operator Saria and her very first module. As a quick reminder, we are going to go first through the story of the module, and then we're going to take a look at what the module does from a technical standpoint and what it brings to the operator. In this case, we're also going to take a small look, at least verbally, towards the future, because Saria will eventually get a second module. And I wanted to go over that one because I found that one very interesting personally. But anyway, our module today and the story itself are titled Unused Boxing Gloves. And people who might not know stuff about Saria might be right now like, boxing gloves? Saria? What? Yes, she is a boxer, or rather, used to box, and this story is gonna go over that a tiny bit. Also, considering that in the Mansfield Break story, we do get to see what Saria is capable of doing when she uses both her boxing prowess and the calcification skill, and by that I mean this thing. This little CG is a little scene, without spoiling anything from the story if you haven't read it, by the way. She does use this skill of hers, or rather these arts of hers, in the story to fortify basically her hands and go head to head with the big bad of the story, which, by the way, was wielding essentially swords against her, and she was able to pretty much guard against those with just these arts and fortifying her hands with the calcification arts that she possesses. And if I am not completely incorrect here, the calcification process that she can undergo on her skin makes it so that it's as tough as a diamond, which is quite insane, and does beg the question of, are we eventually gonna see a Saria alternative version with as a guard or something, where she just punches her enemies into smithereens? But I guess only time will tell. I would love to see that, by the way. Anyway, our story today goes as follows. Saria stared at the old gloves before her. They had originally been locked away in a closet in the Director of Defense's office, Rhine Lab HQ. Her departure had been too rushed to take nearly any personal items, and they should have cleaned out her office long ago. So why save these? Why send them to Rhode Island? And why now? A few days ago, at the intervention of the Maylander Foundation, construction ceased on dozens of unlawful experiment sites. Certain people had bribed officials in the municipal planning department to circumvent the necessary auditing procedures, and used fabricated plans to deceive the ethics review committee. Business as usual. Saria had spent months on the move to find evidence of their illegal dealings. Fortunately, she'd gotten a hold of Anthony Simon, along with his sources. Ultimately, over half of the test sites shut down had belonged to almost said Rhode Island, to Rhine Lab. Maybe that was why these boxing gloves turned up now, a warning or even a reminder. They were hardly the first boxing gloves she'd ever owned. Those would be the ones her father gave her, clearly unfit for a child, which always chafed her skin to the point of bleeding. But she persisted and did as her father told her, pounding her weakness into a sandbag along with all her impractical emotions, punch by punch. Others had minds filled with openings, so one moment of complete disarray was all she needed to shatter their defensive line in a single punch. Saria was never as enamored with fighting as so many other boxers were. For her, the skill was simply a means to survive, until now. Unconsciously, her fingers read the rigid words along the back of the gloves. Tri-Mounts Institute of Technology. She'd once taken part in an intercollegiate tournament with these. She spent many a late night in the boxing club back then, always with a +1 tagging along. That certain someone wasn't a fan of the sport, nor was she interested in the tournament, but hung around simply because varying your environment prevents your mind from getting stuck in certain lines of thought. She wasn't joking. Not much later, she proposed the concept of a hand-mounted exoskeletal operating system based on observation of Saria's own movements. That system was still in use to this day in the office of Rhine Labs Control. Though they hadn't seen use in so many years, the gloves looked as snug as ever. Saria very nearly put her hands in them, but a slight ache from beneath her shoulder blades held her back. Apparently a call to adjust the dosage of her painkillers. The mercenaries outnumbered her in the last investigation, after all, a whole platoon against one. It meant she was gradually getting close to the truth. A few minutes later, Saria let go of the gloves, stowing them in the lowest drawer of her temporary desk, and once again picked up Ifrit's latest physical report. So yeah, this short story pretty much is like a short little essay about Saria's life before any of Rhine Lab shenanigans or even Rhode Island shenanigans, but also catches up to a part about what happens after the Mansfield break story. Which obviously I'm not gonna go over here right now. If you do wanna just listen to the story, I did a narration on it and you can find it very easily on this very channel, or you can read it yourself as well, obviously. It was a pretty decent story, and it brought quite a bit of foreshadowing towards the hopefully soon to be released Rhine Lab story and Dorothy. Hopefully. But anyway, let's go into what the module does for Saria. Also, I just want to say one little quick thing, and it kind of popped into my head when just before I started recording this. I don't know why, but in my head, this was Saria's S2 skin, because I used it for so long, and I completely forgot that this is actually her S2, E2 skin. I don't know why, but I'll say this is way more diesel than her other one. Anyway, enough of that. So first off, let's go over what her traits and talents do without the module. So first off, her normal trait says can heal allies by using skills, which is pretty much what her entire kit does. Every single skill on her is meant to heal allies around her. Her first talent, Rhine Charged Suit, says for every 20 seconds that Saria is deployed, her attack goes up by 5% and defense by 4%, and it stacks up to 5 times. So meaning at the end of it you will have 25% increased attack and 20% increased defense when it stacks to the max, making her pretty diesel. And considering that her healing comes from pretty much her attack power, pretty decent. Her second talent is Refreshment. When Saria restores an ally's HP, she also restores 1 extra skill point to them. So she is like a mini battery for skill points for anybody she heals. Now, what does the module do to her in the default state? So on stage 1, when you unlock it, you immediately gain, as always, an addition to the trait. So now, additionally to healing allies, when healing allied units with less than 50% health, the healing amount will be increased by 15%, which is okay. That is already decent, making her an even better healer essentially, and can probably save a lot of units when they dip below the 50% mark in a quick manner. But now, what does the module do once upgraded? So, once upgraded, On stage 2, it will upgrade the refreshment, her second talent. So instead of restoring 1 SP to the target's healed, it will be 2 SP. And on stage 3, that 2 stays the same, but if she is healing Rhine Lab operators, which means operators like Silence, Ifrit, I believe herself as well, and a couple of others, those will, instead of getting 2, receive 3 SP. So she's pretty much has that little synergy with Rhine Lab operative, similar to how well, not really similar, but kind of in the veins of how the Abyssal Hunters have all synergy between each other. But in this case, she becomes a pretty decent skill point battery for Rhine Lab operatives, and kind of puts a very interesting idea to do Rhine Lab teams essentially as well. But that is pretty much what this thing does. Now, she will get a second module in the future. I don't have the picture here right now for it, because it isn't released yet. I did look at it, what it does, on the very same wiki page where I took this picture from. Her second module, I don't know, might be my preferred module for her. Essentially, instead of the 15% extra healing her here that you get for her, it will be a reduction of 15% in just received damage. If they don't change anything to it once it drops onto global, or hopefully nothing was stupidly worded on the translation or mistranslated, on the wiki it says it is a reduction to 15% overall damage, which is already massive, making her into an insane tank already. I mean, she is already an insane tank, considering self-healing and stuff, and healing allies around her. Having an extra reduction of 15% just for both physical and arts damage is insane. But on top of that, that second module will also buff her first talent, which in that case, once max upgraded, instead of being 20 seconds to gain a stack of attack and defense, it will be an 18 seconds already on stage 2, retaining that on stage 3, and once maxed out, the attack will go 7% per stack, and defense will go 6% per stack, which means that she will essentially have a 35% increase on attack and 30% increase on defense, which, if you ask me, is kind of massive, especially considering that her healing stems from her attack power. But yeah, interesting. I will probably prefer the second module over this one, even though this one has definitely interesting synergies with the skill point fill up for operators around her. But oh, and on top of it, apparently her second module, instead of like this module, and let me show it here very quickly, this module gives her HP and attack, which is great because, again, attack is what she needs for her healing. But the second module boosts HP, attack, and defense. So, yeah, people probably did the numbers, but just by skimming over it, the second module looks way more handy and diesel for Saria than her first one. Even though, like I said, the first one definitely has an interesting synergy once maxed out for like Rhine Lab comp teams. But yeah, that will be it for today's short story and the module itself. As per always, I hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.